The opinions of the individuals during this broadcast are their own and may not be the opinions of their group or other organizations they may be involved with.
Cannabis Act Review. Question 5.2 Roundtable. A joint broadcast by KGL-TV and the Pace Radio Network. The question asks, is a distinct medical access program necessary to provide for individuals, or can access needs be met through a non-medical framework? Hear from Ted Smith, Stacy Bobak, Tim Barnhart, Jack Kungal, Debbie Stultz-Giffin, Matt Jerome, and many others. So let's begin.
Hello and welcome to everyone to tonight's special joint broadcast of the Cannabis Act Review, question 5.2, a roundtable discussion. Joining me tonight is Reverend Kelly from KGL TV, and I am Al Graham of Pace Radio. Good evening, Rev Kelly. How you doing?
Good evening, and as we begin, we would like to acknowledge the land on which we stand is the tradition and territory of the First Nations. We also acknowledge that the Indigenous people are the traditional guardians and caretakers of this land that we call Canada. We offer this land and territory acknowledgement to respect and show solidarity with our Indigenous nations. Thank you very much. Hello, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us tonight. This very special broadcast of the Reefer Reporters. We were saying this morning, almost 12 hours ago, about 10 hours ago, when we went live in the news this morning, that we would just be back a little bit later and you'd catch us Reefer Reporters all day. So thank you so much for joining in.
Exactly. The just so everybody knows, tonight we'll be airing at about 20 different locations between Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Roku, Amazon Fire Stick, Chromecast, Apple TV, and wherever you can post comments, feel free to post comments. And if we see them here on our StreamYard feed, then at some point throughout the night, they'll be addressed.
Yeah, this is probably the biggest broadcast that we've ever done collectively here. So, and it's an important one. It's one that it just came up when we did the news one day. You know what? I think we need to do something about this. I think we need to have this conversation with all these really important voices. So it just came of this, and look at all of the people we've brought together tonight to have this conversation. So
yes,
it's pretty interesting and wonderful.
Exactly. Shall we touch on the format before we get going?
Yeah.
Okay. So there's going to be 3 groups, 2 smaller ones, about 30 minutes each, and then there'll be a larger group for about an hour. And we're looking in the third group will be that hour long, so there's going to be more people involved, and we'll have some questions. We're going to allow some time to take that input from the comment section as well.
Right.
Yeah. Right. Just so you know, I am getting messages from some of our arranged guests, and they are having some problems. Just so you know.
Okay, that is good to know. Right. Okay, so that's good to know. So we may have to assist them at some point in time during this broadcast. If that happens, then we'll just take you out, Al, if you have to go troubleshoot with them. But we do have, I think everybody from our first group is here. Or almost everybody from our first group is here. So should we bring them in?
Yep, bring them in.
Let's bring in our friends. The first is, hello, Jack. Hello. Oops, Matt's in the second one. Sorry. Hello, Debbie. And hello, Ted.
And Ted.
And do we have Ross? Is Ross one of the ones that we're having trouble with getting in?
Yes, Ross is having problems. Ross Middleton from Canadian, the Therapeutic Partners. He's having problems logging in. So I'm going to try to send him some messages while we do this. And see if we can get him added.
I think that would be great. Okay, so maybe what we'll do then is have each of our guests introduce themselves while we're waiting for Ross to come in.
Sounds good.
Yeah, we'll start with Ted. Hi, Ted.
Yep.
Hi there. Thanks for having me on the show here and for doing this panel.
You're
I guess.
welcome. Introduce yourself, name, and who you represent.
Okay. Well, Ted Smith. I represent the 26-year-old Victoria Cannabis Buyers Club, based in the capital of British Columbia.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Nice.
And Debbie, would you introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Debbie Stultz-Giffin. I'm chair of Maritimers Unite for Medical Marijuana Society. We've been registered as a not-for-profit here in Nova Scotia for 19 years. Decided there was a need to have a not-for-profit organized to help support patients because it seemed 19 years ago like Health Canada wasn't taking patients seriously and weren't prepared to adequately address our needs. Does that still sound vaguely familiar? I can't see over that 19 years much move for meaningful change in the program.
Absolutely.
I was also involved in the Hitzig decision.
Wow.
Yes, you were. Exactly. You've been around. Deb's fighting this
Many
for a long
years
time.
ago. Anyway,
many
I'll
years.
let either Jack or Ted have a turn at introducing themselves because I realize we've just got a half of an hour here.
I have some wonderful news. I'm going to bring Ross in right now. It looks like the tech is working over there. Hello. Hello, Ross.
Hi there.
Hey, Ross, we're just looking for you to introduce yourself and who you're here representing.
I remember critiquing the medical marijuana access patient sitting back possessing a Section 56 at
Just hang on, Deb.
the time.
Go ahead, Ross.
Okay, yeah, so I'm Ross Middleton. I'm Executive Secretary of the Canadian Therapeutic Cannabis Partners Society. I should say past, because basically the society is been inactive for a while. But I personally have been very active in lobbying Health Canada. I've got a lot to tell.
Good stuff. Jack, even you need some introduction. Not everybody knows Jack.
Well, my name's Jack Kungal, and I am a cannabis user, terminal cancer survivor. And so what I do is I work with people in my home.
On my screen, it looks as if they're still loading in.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry, Debbie. Everyone's fine at this end. Kelly, you see everything's fine?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, it's like you said, Deb, you've got slow internet down there. Hey, Jack, go ahead.
I don't represent anybody. I represent the dying people is who I represent.
It's a good cause.
Thank you, Jack. Thank you.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, question 5.2. As we know, the Cannabis Act is being under review, and they're looking for submissions. They've got until the 21st of November in order for people to get their submissions in. And question 5.2, as you can see here on the screen, says, is a distinct medical access program necessary to provide individuals with reasonable access to cannabis for medical purposes, or can access needs be met through the non-medical framework? I look at this question as a two-part question. Is it necessary, the program, and will the stores suffice as a replacement for them? So I'd like to go around the table and ask everybody basically as two questions. And that is the program necessary? Tell us why it should be, why it's necessary and why it should be there. We'll just go in a circle here. From Jack, you're on my left. We passed the GB left. So
for myself, the store would never work, and for many people it would never work. It's the cost factor. I consume almost 40 grams of cannabis daily, and if I had to go to a dispensary to buy 40 grams every single day, I could not afford that. It would cost me $16,000 a month. And so the home access program, me being allowed to grow my cannabis, I produce now what I need for $100. Big difference.
Big difference.
especially when somebody, when
Exactly.
you're usually on disability pension. So money is a big factor.
Yeah. Deb, hopefully the delay is not too much. Can you explain to us what you think as far as is the program necessary, and then would the framework of the non-medical stores work as a replacement?
She's muted.
She's muted. Yeah. Yeah. She's still muted. She has
Didn't
that
work.
control at her end. No. All right. We'll watch for that, and
Sure.
I'll just move it over to Ross.
Sure.
The same question.
Yeah, I just did the whole questionnaire thing online. I just completed it this afternoon, and yeah, that question was there. My answer was, are you really going to go ahead and try to violate our Section 7 charter rights again? Are we going to go through this again? Really? You know, like, they can't do this. And I got to tell you, these are some of the stupidest questions I've ever heard. Pretty much, I gave 3 answers for 12 questions. And it was the same answer for like 4, and then another same answer for another 4, and another same answer for the other 4. So it was just kind of like asking the same question in a different way. And they say, do you want to take the people's ability to grow 4 plants from the recreational program? And it's like, sure. And the first person that gets busted for growing 4 plants will go to court and say that it's against his charter right to give it to him and then take it away, right? So that's not going to work. And the medical program, how many rulings have we had that say that it's our right to have a medical cannabis program? I told them that they are, if there's a problem with the medical program, it's one that you created, Health Canada. You did this. You put no limit on how much people can get, right? So now people abuse the program, get 490-gram permits on one property, grow thousands of plants and are untouchable by the police, hiding behind the medical program, and then diverting it to the black market. So now somehow our program is at fault for that. No, it's not. Okay, it is not. Health Canada wrote these regulations. They are wholly and solely responsible for any abuse of the program. So I'm focusing on the medical program here because they just can't do this. Okay, they just can't take our medical program away. They can tweak it, and they should. They should reduce the potential for abuse, because I don't like to see our medical program being abused. But at the same time, as I said to them, it's a balancing act. You can't make it too restrictive, but you can't make it unrestricted, right? So where's the balance? It's all about finding balance. I said the balance has to be there. How's 30 grams a day with a special provision for up to 50? Some kind of limit, right? If they did that, just that alone would reduce the potential for abusing the program to divert to the black market. They could, in one fell swoop, reduce the black market by 80% by limiting access to the medical program by people who don't really need it, don't want it, just want to use it to cover what they're doing. I don't like it. I mean, the black market, I'm not against the black market. Don't get me wrong. I mean, it's there and it'll always be there. And I've always been a supporter of it. You know, like, I mean, freedom is key. But that's also what I told them, that is when you put such restrictive shit in place on one end with the Cannabis Act, and then on the other end, a whole loosey-goosey thing on the medical program that's open to abuse at will. Now you've got this black market being fueled by your stupid regulations, and now you're trying to blame it on us.
Can I just jump in so we can finish introducing our guests? Ted? You've done, okay, Debbie. Yeah, Ted, you've already, you haven't answered the question here for 5.2.
Yeah, so I guess, obviously everyone here agrees that they shouldn't. In fact, they should improve it by allowing storefront dispensaries, improving the milligram dosage allowed to at least 100 milligrams, and they need to do other things to improve the program. But that's not their intent here. Their intent is clearly to shut the program down, and they, the last time they lost on these matters in the Allard decision was pre-legalization, when the medical program, the MMPR and the whole sort of scheme of having companies supply was very new, and so the Allard decision, did I guess at the time protect patients' rights under Section 7, but there's two stages in a constitutional challenge in court. And the first is to prove your Section 7 rights are violated. The second is the state has the opportunity to prove that it's in the public interest to violate those rights. And, consistently the state has lost that argument. But I fear that this survey is intended to collect information from multiple agencies, everywhere from realtors to municipalities, firemen, and certainly police and others who've had problems with the medical marijuana program, and that they're going to essentially just cast this huge net to collect information that otherwise would have been much more difficult for them to do. And they've got the full backing of the Canadian Medical Association, which for years, since legalization's been on the table, has been saying that now the medical marijuana program can be shut down, doctors can be cut out of it. They're going to put cannabis in the Natural Health Products Act, so that if you want to sell it as medicine in a store, it's got to go through some licensing and testing in order to be able to claim it's got a medical use at all. And otherwise, they're going to tell people to go to the recreational stores. And, I think they may make some incremental changes and allow people to grow, 8 plants instead of 4. They may even make an incremental change with the 10 milligram dosage. But it's something that I really think they intend and will go through on shutting the program down. It's more a matter of how we're going to either stop them by raising enough public awareness that they're even putting this on the table, and preparing to go to court again, because I have no doubt that that's what's going to be the result of this.
Yeah, it's not gonna go just drift away. Now let's see if Deb, if you're there, if we're not still swirly faces on your screen, and then you can hear us. If you unmute your mic.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. I know.
I think no.
Fingers crossed for Deb. Come on, Deb.
Maybe we'll try to unmute her.
She's in a bad spot down there,
Mm.
and she tries.
Maritimes.
Yeah. Okay. We'll keep working on it. If Deb comes through, we'll grab her while she's there.
Sure.
All right. Now, as far as if they cancel the program, like Ted is saying, and that others believe, okay, Deb is left. What happens to the children who are dealing with seizures? Is mom and dad just supposed to go into the corner store and just go in there and not have any, just go into the store, because they're not allowed to talk medical? So what effect would that have on the kids they were dealing with them?
It would have a terrible effect on everybody.
Let's start with Jack.
Yeah, but specifically the children.
I look at it like this: we still do not have access to this. Everything we have access to is a fusion. That's the crime. Why don't we have access to people? Yes, we don't have access to pure cannabis, so we have a fusion. The only place you can get, if we go to a native reserve, or you have to make it yourself. Why is that? Why are we not allowed to have that? This is what causes the apoptosis of the cancer. This is what heals, and this is what we're not allowed to have. This is what they don't allow us to make. Why is that?
Good question. I don't know.
Question. Very simple
Yeah.
question.
So what do
Why
we
do
do
you give
about
us
the kids
this
if
and
can't
we
do the
can't have
program?
this?
What
They
do we
can't.
do if so?
They can't take it away.
Ro-
They can't take the medical program away. They're not going to do that. It's been too many court rulings have gone through, and there'll just be another one to add to that. If they tried to do that, they would just be have it overturned in the courts again. And how many times can they violate our charter rights before they get the message that you can't do that? I think personally they've already got that message. They know they can't take the medical program away, and they won't take the medical program away. I do see them making some changes to the medical program, and I honestly feel that some changes need to be made for the medical program because it is too open for abuse. I don't want to see the medical program that we fought so fucking hard for be abused by the black market to the point that we lose our right to our medicine. Okay? That's not on the table. I won't let it be on the table. I can tell you right
I
now that
know.
I'm talking to Health Canada personally. I'm emailing them back and forth, and we're having an ongoing debate. You can go on and take that survey, and I've done the survey, and do it. Please do. It's good for everybody to put in their opinions. But I've busted through that fucking barrier, and I'm talking to them directly. You go to the legislative review at gov.gc. Anyway, you can look it up. You can send them an email too. But I got them to a point where they recognize my name now, and they reply to me. So they might do it for you too. And maybe if enough of us send emails, they'll understand that we're not just going to take this laying down.
Excellent.
We're going to fight this all the way. And I guarantee you right now, we are not going to lose our medical program. Maybe it'll be changed, and maybe it should be. I don't like the black market thriving on our backs, okay? We need to get all the medicine we need. We really do. The question is, how much do we need? Does anybody need 90 grams a day? Anybody here?
No,
anybody,
I can do between 35 and 40.
Right. So does anybody need 120 grams a day? I've heard about a 200 gram a day permit approved by Health Canada.
Wow.
Okay. This is crazy. Wow. Right? Nobody needs that. And what are they doing with 200 grams a day? You know what they're doing.
Well,
okay.
Yes.
They're diverting it to the black market, and it's giving us a bad name.
And that's the abuse of the program. Right.
We need to have reasonable access. I said to them, Justice Phelan ordered reasonable access, not unlimited access. Okay? And what they gave was unlimited access that was open to abuse. So now we got to talk about limits. Okay?
Well, I'm not there yet. I'm still going around asking questions. What about the kids?
Well, the kids are given, aren't they? I mean, who the hell would take the kids' medicine away?
You don't feel that they're going to eliminate the program. So I don't know whether you want to get into a what if scenario. What if they do eliminate the program? What about the kids? Is mom and dad supposed to go to the store?
If they did, obviously, the kids would be first on the list, right?
Over to you, Ted, when it comes to kids.
Well, I'm quite certain that they're going to try and eliminate the program. They wouldn't have asked the question if it wasn't on the table. They're not really and never have been interested in improving the program unless forced to by court order. And this whole thing has been forced down Health Canada's throat, and they resent it. And now that cannabis is legally available, a lot of things have changed since the Allard decision in terms of accessibility. And I understand it's not quite as affordable as it is growing your own. But as time goes on, the prices in the legal stores are declining, and the quality is improving. And the accessibility to strains, which was one of the big arguments in Allard, is no longer valid because you can go into any one of these number of stores and they've got all the different strains, or order them by mail from the province or whatever. And so the accessibility arguments I think are much weaker than they ever have been before in court, because this is the first time there's been a court challenge with legalization. So we can't just stand on our past court decisions and say, oh, we've won in the past, we'll win forever. A careful read of Allard shows very clearly that the decision was made at the earliest stages of the MMPR. And, if the circumstances changed, those Section 7 rights may not stand to the Section 1 arguments. And Ross has just given a whole lot of evidence about the Section 1 arguments and how abused the program has been and how many people are being arrested, in these situations that are making the whole program look bad. And that's the evidence that they're going to use, and there's mounting evidence of it. Like they're going to be able to, really lay it out there that like they've got this across the country. So I have absolutely no doubt that they're planning on doing it, and that this is part of their means of collecting evidence for the court case that will follow.
Wow.
Well, that was one of my questions. Why would they ask this question, and what will they use it for down the road? Obviously, they're not just asking it just to write it on a piece of paper.
Right.
They're asking it for, there's a purpose, is it?
They want people to write in. It's there. It's part of it. So why are they doing it?
You don't ask a question. You don't ask a question like that if you're not willing to accept the consequences. It's like asking your girlfriend if you think you should break up. Right?
Don't do that.
Like you don't do that unless you've got it in the back of your head, maybe this relationship is over, right? Like that's the kind of question that we've just been asked.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
And it's going to take all of us to stand together and not let that happen. So
It's not going to happen. We won't let it. We won't let it happen, and it's not going to happen. It's just not.
No. Okay, we got 3 minutes left here until we switch everybody around. We're just going to do it all live. We're not going to commercial break or anything. There's no commercials.
That's right.
Yeah. Now, could they turn around and use this data for the actual excuse in order to eliminate, the program by saying that the majority of the people who did this survey feel that the program has run its course and the stores are sufficient? Like that'll automatically trigger a court case?
Can I take that?
Ross, go ahead.
Yeah.
I see your hand up,
I don't know if you guys are aware or not, but there has just been a court decision made, and that was in Warneke et al. Versus Her Majesty the Queen, of which I was an affiant in that trial. I attended the entire trial virtually over Zoom. We won. Okay. There's still a publication ban in effect, believe it or not. The defendants have to go back to Saskatchewan court to have their charges dismissed. And until they're dismissed, the publication ban is in place. This is general information that I'm giving you. It's not details about the case. So it's not really violating it. But I can tell you what the decision was. And that was that no in-person access to medical cannabis violates. Which section of the charter do you think it violates? 7, right? So it's another Section 7 charter violation. It's been determined, it's been ruled on, and that means that there will be in-person access to medical cannabis. You're talking about a federally regulated scheme of stores located across the country where people can walk in, buy their medical cannabis, and walk out with it. That you can't do that right now. So I cannot see another ruling like this hitting Health Canada at a time when they have the gall to think that they could actually remove the program and end it. This is just another example of why they can't. In fact, they may tweak this system, and it is under review right now as a part of this Cannabis Act review, as it is part of the Cannabis Act. I don't know if you know that or not, if it's under the Cannabis Act. And so this review is on all of it. So they're asking a lot of questions, and there's going to be a lot of answers. And in the end, they have to look at legal decisions that have been made. And when it comes to the medical program, I don't think that they would think it would be in their best interest or good PR in any way, shape, or form to try to take that away, especially now that we've just had this new ruling where in-person access is against your Section 7 rights. So
Right.
I don't think they're going to take it away, but they may not even change it at all. But I encourage them to change it and make it sensible so that it's not abused.
Sure.
That's just
Okay.
simple.
Thank you.
Okay. All
Thank you
right.
for that.
We're at the bottom of the hour.
We are.
Ross and Ted are going to come back for the third segment, which is going to start
Stick around
8 o'clock.
if you can.
Okay. Probably be a few minutes late. Jack has
Right.
got to leave. Jack, would you
Thank
like
you
to say
so
a few words
much.
before you depart? Thank you, Jack. Before you depart,
Well,
you
I
got a
just
few
want to
words?
thank all you guys for everything that you do.
Nice meeting you guys.
Everybody, you've all done a fantastic fucking job. Just
Right
so
on.
you know.
We're together.
Thank you, Jack. Thank you.
That's it.
Good night.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Al, we're moving on to segment number 2. We'll bring our next guests in.
Yeah.
One by one.
I'm just gonna leave it like
There we go. And we've got Shawna. We've got Matt.
Matt. You
We've
got,
got Owen. We've got Tim.
Tim.
We've got
Alrighty.
everybody. And then we'll bring everybody else in for segment number 3 afterwards. Hello,
Correct.
everyone.
Hello, everyone. Basically the
How's
same
everyone?
idea.
Hello, thanks
that
so
we're
much for
gonna
having
do.
us.
You're welcome. Good meeting you too for the first time, Matt and Shawna. We'll go around the table here and get everybody to introduce themselves and who you represent or who you're part of. And we'll go ladies first. Shawna?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for hosting this event and taking the time to make sure that our voices get heard and to have this conversation. It's a really important one. My name is Shawna Dunbar. I am an executive director at Educannation, Cannabis Education, Inc. We are a fairly new nonprofit organization, started up about 2 years ago. And we came together because we are all patients. We are all caregivers of patients that are in need, and cannabis has helped us. And we felt the need to find support for one another as cannabis educators and to spread the good word in a good way. So our mission is to provide the highest standard of responsible cannabis education. And I don't know, I think that covers about it. I know we don't have a lot of...
covers it. Yeah, not a problem. Matt, down to you, Matt.
Thanks very much, everybody. I just want to echo Shawna's thank you all to who are doing this tonight and also work so hard. My name is Matt Jerome. I'm the owner of Meristem Cannabis Consulting. I've been a longtime patient and advocate since I was about 14 or so. Long time history with the plant and work with patient populations out of Toronto, where I'm based, working with patient care groups, healthcare providers, and patients and their core group, their support groups themselves, learning how to integrate cannabis effectively and efficiently and safely. And I also work as a certified ganja, Canada's first. And for those that don't know, that is a new program out of Humboldt. That is a cannabis sommelier program out of there. And work as a writer and a speaker as well. So proud to be here, and thank you for having me.
Thank you. You're welcome. Owen?
Hello.
Hello.
My name is Owen Smith, and I'm here tonight on behalf of the Cannabis Digest newspaper. We've been in publication since 2010, reporting on all different aspects of cannabis, politics, medicine, history, religion, hemp, whatever it is. Most recently, it is the Cannabis Act. So alongside Ted Smith, we've run a series of articles with videos that talk about the risks that the review from the Cannabis Act poses to the medical community. So thanks for having me on.
Thank you, Owen.
Thank you.
Tim?
Hey, everybody. I'm Tim Barnhart, owner and operator of Legacy 420 on Tyendinaga First Nation. So I'm a patient too and an advocate from a First Nation perspective. So we were left out of the Cannabis Act in 2018. And so here we are today, kind of just, waiting to see what happens now with, patient access here. I have been interested in the Pat Warnicki trial, the case, and that has some interesting tenets to it that might be helpful. I don't know if that's a mainstream position or whether sales are definitely going to continue on First Nations. I can tell you that. We're not going to get mowed over. Our laws are a lot different on First Nation than they are everywhere else. I can tell you that, this is going to be a battle for all of us. And, all parts of Canada needs to wake up because what they're offering is basically an isolate market for patients, and for me that's not medicine. That's profit. So it's nice to meet everybody, and it's going to be an interesting discussion for sure.
Yeah. Exactly, and when you're in the second half in the next group, Tim, we'll get into more on that, into the Indigenous end of things too, because Kelly and I did a report this morning on how you've been left out. Systematic exclusion is what that was about. Okay, so I'll go around again on the question. Kelly, can you put the question back up there?
Yes, I can. Let me do it this way this time.
Okay, question is for 5.2. They're asking if a distinct medical access program is necessary to provide individuals reasonable access to cannabis for medical purposes, or can it be met through the non-medical framework? I'd like to break it up into two parts. What do you think? Is the program necessary? And would it work under the stores? Just using the regular stores? We'll start with Shawna. To my left, pass the doobie to the left, right?
Right, sounds good to me. I think a medical system is 100% absolutely essential. Our current medical cannabis system is not great. It needs major reform, as Ross pointed out earlier. I can give you a 32-page document that our organization wrote up last year in regards to all of the changes that we feel should be made. But I think the main question, to really look at is, so what if we do just shift it over to the medical system? They're not equipped to do it. How many of you know a medical practitioner who is equipped to work with a patient, give them the 101 information about, you have an endocannabinoid system, and guess what? It's different than your neighbors. And, so you're going to have to learn this on your own. And I'm going to prescribe you this. And here you go, you're off on your own. How is that patient supposed to learn how to sign up with a licensed producer, or how to start growing, or where to find their seeds, or any of these things? As a cannabis educator who came up with my job all by myself because of my lack of support for my epileptic son, I see where we fall short as far as our medical system goes. Our medical providers are not trained to be able to support patients and their use of cannabis. It's as simple as that. I mean, I can tell you here in Quebec, McGill University spends a half an hour, 30 minutes total in their teachings to future doctors. 30 minutes on the endocannabinoid system. How is that equipping medical practitioners to be able to prescribe to patients? If that's what Health Canada is aiming for, then why are we not teaching them about cannabis? Why are we not teaching them about the endocannabinoid system so that they can support patients? Number two, where are our children going to be at? As a mother who fought long and hard to gain access for my son, who incidentally has been seizure-free for 7 or 8 years now due to cannabis, which we didn't have before that. It's our little miracle. And many other parents share this miracle, right? I'm recently working with a patient who is injured through the pharmaceutical industry. And he, along with 4 other students of the same age, 15 years old, in Ontario, vaccine injured, they've all developed epilepsy suddenly out of the blue. No one can explain it. So they're being turned away from the medical system saying, well, we don't want to talk about this. And now they're looking for alternatives because they're a little afraid of pharmaceuticals right now. Where are they supposed to go for that support? It's already difficult enough for them. If we pull this medical system away, where are those people going to land?
Exactly.
I'm reliving what I lived with my son 8 years ago.
Yes.
I'm reliving that with this patient right now to gain access, because practitioners are now saying, I don't want to prescribe to anybody who is not of legal age.
Of course.
Because of fear and because of lack of education. So to assume that our medical system could support medical cannabis patients' needs, or just patients' needs in general, is absurd. I think that we need to maintain the system. I think we need to review it. We need to make it better. We need to insist that proper education be part of the whole system. And again, if our government is so worried about, the black market, I think a really great point that was made earlier is, let's set some reasonable limits. Let's reform our medical system to make it make more sense. And here's another point that I find that everyone seems to overlook. Sorry, who knows about the medical cannabis system? Who knows about it? Our government, we make zero effort whatsoever to actually inform the public that it exists. So grandma who has arthritis goes to the rec store, and that's proof, in Health Canada's own statistics about who is frequenting these stores. They're people in medical needs, so there needs to be a change in perspective, 100%.
100%.
All right, gotta move on.
Thank you.
Matt? Thank you very much, Shawna. Matt, is it necessary?
Wonderful points,
and will
Shawna.
the scores work?
Wonderful points, Shawna. And I really, I'm frustrated beyond measure that we're being forced by the government to even speak about this. I appreciate the fact that we need to, but as Ross pointed out, this is almost 3 or 4 steps backwards in almost every way. There is no doubt that we need a medical program. That is why we fought and have fought for years and decades to get this done and to push it in the right narrative. And it will be over so many people's, theoretical dead bodies that this will go over, that the recreational market will be used to Trojan horse, the medical market to Trojan horse the recreational market, and then be completely overtaken by the greed that is, as Shawna said, being pushed by willfully ignorant people up top. It's just blatant at this point that this is happening at the cost of so many people's legitimate lives. It's not an issue of losing money or that, when it comes down to saving our most vulnerable and our children and the people who need this medicine the most. And a medical system is absolutely essential to those who can't gain access to. I know people as a former medical grower, and a proud one at that. It was one of the most rewarding jobs I've ever had, because it illuminated me to the true suffering that was out there. I've been using medicinal cannabis since I was about 15 or 16. And, like we all do, we get stuck in our head and think that things are the worst. And working with some of the veterans and amazing populations that I did up near the area where I was growing for a little while, black market cannabis, because it wasn't, allowed to be going on. We were a community. There was nothing black market or we were an absolute community up there, sharing knowledge, sharing love, sharing passion. And having the green thumb that I did allowed me to interact with some of the most inspiring people there were, and illuminated me to the real population patient, or the patient population out there who needed this to get out of bed, not just to improve their quality of life. And it is something that I think the Canadian government should absolutely be ashamed of, that they use a review after something they come out with after 3 years and then a year, dragging their heels about it, to then turn and look at us in the face and go, do you really think we need something that is the only reason that legal cannabis is being sold?
Right.
That is it is on the backs of prisoners and advocates and patients and children and people who these governments and politicians are supposed to be serving. And it is frustrating beyond measure to have to take this back. We still need to, and we need to make sure that we stand united against this. But there is 1,000,000% a need for a medical program, and the fact that it's being even asked is, it's an outrage in my opinion.
Exactly. Yeah, it's odd. Owen, which would be is it necessary, and will the storefronts work as a replacement for the medical program?
It's definitely necessary. Let's say 1,000,000% was really high. I'd say 2,000,000% necessary. That we, talking about my case, edibles particularly still don't have access to anything above 10 milligrams per survey. When you talk about the medical people, well, we need to expand the program, at least to be constitutional. You had a little bit of mention earlier about Pat's case, the Wernicke trial, and the ruling that expands the edibles limit, that talks about having storefronts dedicated access for medical cannabis patients. Those are necessities, constitutional necessities.
Yes.
It's not that you can just get rid of that. Sort of. I think they get themselves in all kinds of trouble if they would do that, but they don't seem to mind.
So you don't think that just an extra question is, so you still don't think even after all these years they still haven't met up to the ruling of your court case?
No, they haven't. No, this very much it's unprotected. It's unsupported. There's no evidence that established the limit to 10 milligrams. It's just arbitrary. And there's no reason why someone should consume a non-medicinal filler carrier ingredient in order to gain access to the medicinal one that they're actually trying to get. It doesn't make any sense, right?
Yep.
It doesn't work in other things. They're only using it here because it seems like it's going to reduce the incidences of unwanted effects, which we all know is the case with cannabis. With edibles, people eat the slice of cake that their aunt made and spend the afternoon on the moon, and then they don't want to touch it for a while. Lots of the people who I introduced to edible cannabis, that's their experience. We'll help you get in slow. We'll help you ease your way in and become comfortable with it, which is seemingly what a 10 milligram limit would do. Reduce sort of hassle that they might see as a consequence of legalizing cannabis. But it's not a constitutional decision. It's unconstitutional, and that's been confirmed recently. It's wonderful. Pat actually has got to come visit me a couple of times. His brother lives in the neighborhood here, so.
Yeah, exactly. Over to you, Tim. Same question. Is the program necessary? We're in your situation. Obviously, you're dealing with a lot of medical patients. So is the program necessary, and will a storefront do a suffice?
Absolutely, Al. So we've been in operation for, almost 8 years now. And overwhelmingly, we are increasing our bottom line every year. And that tells me that patients just keep coming, right? So I think the bigger picture with the medical program is the rollout of the recreational program. So right from the inception, you and I, Al, and I'm sure everybody, all the other guests, were hearing, underlings and whisperings of extinguishing the program in lieu of the recreational program. So that's always been their plan, right? So I go back to Pat's case again, and I think what Neil and Ross have said is that is the mechanism I think that we can use to push compounded medical cannabis forward. But there's nothing stopping them from doing the same, so they can turn around and license a regime to do just that themselves, taking it away from, the core groups that were originally involved. And this is really what's bothering me, is that all the guests that you've got today on the show, the knowledge and the years and years of experience is just a waste. It's just being wasted and frittered away. The government has always been aware that these strong advocates, like Neil's case, I mean, like it just goes on and on and on, right? Like all the way back to 1991. Is it 91? Right? So it is not only needed, it's necessary. The low barrier access to First Nations have the ability to push out medicines for a lot cheaper than just about everybody else anywhere, right? And that's what we've been doing, and that seems to be the success that we're having, is this low barrier access. So people can come into the reserve and buy oil or medicine, right? But you can't do that when you go into the cities, right? So you have to buy an isolate product. They won't allow oil to be made in Canada, which is really bizarre. I originally wanted to, get arrested just to, to start this ball rolling over oil.
Of course.
So, there's lots of problems with the medical program, as has been mentioned, by Ross and many others, about plants, having such high scripts, but it's needed in a lot of cases. So there has to be a way to license this regime somehow and provide with the necessity. We're going to need lots of cannabis at where we are. So our needs are anywhere from 15 to 22 tons a year. And that's significant, right? So
you're
program away, then, pretty much there goes the basis of our medicine, right? So we'll have to adopt some other regime on First Nations and move it forward on our own. And many of us are talking that across the country. So, but I'm just stunned, guys. I'm just happy that we're here and that we're talking about this again after all of the trials and tribulations that Canadians went through to get us to where we are. It's a shame.
Excellent point. Excellent point.
Now,
Thank you.
I see, Shawna, you mentioned in a comment that oil is available now. Is that the fecal oil that, or are you talking about a mixture of infused oil?
I mean, I would say that's maybe one of the good things about recreational legalization, is we're starting to see more products, a more diverse product line available. When I first started working with patients, we had flour and we had bottles of oil, right? That's I'm not talking about FECO, they're diluted FECO, right? We do have access now to suppositories and concentrates, and even, RSO on the legal market. You can buy it. There's over 900 licensed producers right now. There's a lot of variety of product out there. 100%. Are people gaining access to it? Or are they being given the proper education on how to use it and how to benefit from it? That's a whole different story.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Holes and everything else. I mean, there are rabbit holes that we could dive down and,
There
talk
sure
about.
are.
But at least we're starting to see these products available on the market. Personally, I find it beneficial for those that are going, the legal route with their prescriptions. I have more available to help them.
Yeah.
Do I love it all? No, but yes, you can get RSO
Thank
on the
you.
market right now.
Thank you for sharing that.
Okay, that's good. Now, we asked the other group about the access for the kids. If they eliminated the program and it goes to the stores, where would parents turn to when it comes to? Would they be expected just to go into a store and have somebody to tell them, here, try this, versus going to somebody who's educated? I know, Shawna, that you mentioned that that was the situation that you were in 8 years ago with your
I can't believe where we're at right now. I can't believe that, all my go-to prescribing practitioners are all throwing their hands up going, listen, Health Canada is breathing down our necks. And what I don't understand is, here's this. Right now, we're up against this review of the Cannabis Act. Why are there already changes being implemented that we're not being made aware of? Why are practitioners feeling like, someone's breathing down their necks and they're no longer comfortable prescribing to pediatrics? And where does this leave those families? They are going to turn to the recreational market. They're going to walk into a store, get what they think that they need, and potentially, give it to their children. That's a huge risk that our government shouldn't be willing to be liable for. I think our government is moving towards, cannabis is the same as alcohol and tobacco. And so guess what? It's not our friggin' problem anymore. We're not liable for this anymore. It's a recreational substance. That, I believe, was always the plan of action of all of this. But where does it leave not just our youth, but our seniors as well? We're talking about our vulnerable populations that need the support. They need medical support. They need the support of a system that's in place that can provide them with education and with guidance. And that's where Health Canada seems to be completely missing the mark. They're still focused on access. I'm sorry, but access is the easiest thing in the world. We have how many different markets in play right now? Anybody can find access to cannabis worldwide. We need to focus on education and providing support, especially for our vulnerable populations of patients, right? Recreational legalization has done nothing but build more barriers. It's not making it easier, it's making it more difficult for people.
Matt, over to you. On the kids situation, you're dealing with patients.
100%. I agree with Shawna so much about leaving our vulnerable populations. This is, I take it as a duty as someone who's an able-bodied patient to fight for those who can't, because it seems so blatant that these higher ups, as soon as they get, and it's sad to say it, that it all comes down to money, that the recreational market seems to make more money for them. So they just don't care about the people who they're serving. And it's just, it's frustrating, coupled with other emotions as just, it's outraging. So the kids who I've had the fortune of knowing and had the fortune of being around, who have been affected positively by cannabis, have almost always had, them and their family have almost had always a fight, and it's one way or the other. And the last people who should be having these fights are these people who are already fighting these absolutely awful illnesses and things that are completely draining and
Mhm.
catastrophic to families. These are the people who need the support most, not millionaires and billionaires. That's not who we made this industry to support. This is an outrage against the people that this was turned around, and our precious medical model that we fought so hard to get was turned around and given to, we knowingly, the worst people that we know, businessmen and politicians. And
That's right.
it's frustrating to know that the kids have even the ability to be negatively affected in this. That no, it is as Ross said, this can't happen. But it's, again, they're testing our resolve, they're testing our strength, they're testing our patience in every
Yeah.
sense of the word. That this can't happen, but this should need to be an option to happen. And I know they mentioned that things are already happening. We know that wheels are turning in the back. That this review seems to be another way for them to invite skepticism, for them to invite negativity and gaslight us once again. All these age-old things that were just past, and we know that the science is coming out, but
No.
again, that's
Owen,
making it
Thank
hard
you.
to. So
thank you, Matt.
problem.
Owen, I know in your case, in your trial, there was parents of a child that did get involved and is a intervener, and the effect that program at the time, what effect it was having on the kids. Could you just imagine having no program?
Mandy McKnight, I heard recently is having some difficulty finding medicine. And yeah, I hear what Shawna said, that there's lots of parents out there who could be in a similar spot. And they're probably
Yeah.
the most influential stakeholder group on media and potentially politicians. Seeing it all around the world, when it comes up, it's hard to ignore. So
It
the
is. They always say, "What about the children?" That's what I say. What about the children?
it's the unmatched bravery, and I guess you could say, like, day by day courage to exist and have a child who has such difficulties. That's that's probably some of the strongest force that we have,
Yeah.
like, as a community. If we can support people in those situations, we're some of the most in need. So if this, so the recreational cannabis system can't do it for one reason or another, it's always going to be a need to help these groups.
That's right.
And the government doesn't.
Yeah, your audio all of a sudden went scratchy there, Owen, but I was able to understand what you were saying. Tim, would you want to touch on the children's issue when it comes to eliminating the program?
It's bizarre, really. So that's basically the first person I worked with was a 12-year-old child, right? And very sad case. The child ended up passing away at age 14, but we helped a great deal. And it's sad to think that a lot of kids, are going to be severely affected by this. I mean, we all know that pharmaceutical medicine, especially cannabinoid concoctions, don't work as nearly as good as the real deal. And so, the vulnerable period, Al, is really going to be affected here. So, we serve a lot of elders, right? We serve a lot of old people. Our demographic is between 50 and 75. Some of our people are as old as 100. I think the oldest 102. Anywhere from Toronto to Montreal. And so, if medical is taken away, that's going to have a severe effect on that population. And so, the the government, unfortunately, doesn't see cannabis as a medicine. And that's really the problem. If they thought this was a medicine, we'd already be teaching it in the colleges and in the universities.
Yeah.
But we refuse to do that, right? So we dance around it. We institute a program to hire a bunch of doctors to write big scripts. And I think that was part of the problem, is because I don't know about any of you guys, but my doctor basically helped me along to get my plant count higher. So they were complicit in this. And those people were hired by the federal government. Right. So I think they were part and parcel to the problem. And I think if our own doctors were allowed to write scripts, this program would be entirely different. And if they turned it over and allowed medical doctors to prescribe medical cannabis, this would be entirely different. Who knows their patient better than their own doctor, their own physician? So he should be the person, or she should be the person that gives out the plant count to the patient, not some doctor that's sitting in an office in Montreal or Calgary or Vancouver. And that's basically what you have here. And so now they're blaming it on patients once again, that you're overgrowing and you're doing all this, high dose edibles, because they won't do it. As Neil said, that they're violating the constitutional rights of patients still today, right? And so this is going to end up right back in court, as we all know, and there's going to be another Neil, and unfortunately, it's bad for all of us.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Now, I see it's about 5 after 8, almost 10 after 8. How many people we got in the lobby? Got enough room to squeeze everybody in?
We can squeeze everybody in. Let's bring the rest of the group in right now. Hello, hello, hello. Wonderful. Welcome, everybody. Welcome. Thank you so much. We'll spend the rest of the time with you up until 9 o'clock. And anyone that is watching, feel free to drop your comments. And we're going to spend some time at the end of the broadcast going over your comments and questions. And that will also be the time that you can speak to any of our guests and panelists this evening as well.
Yep, we have a new panelist in this segment. And that's Greene Irene. So I'm going to get Irene to introduce herself and who she represents and so on and so forth.
Hello, everybody. I'm Greene Irene. And I guess if anything, I represent probably just patients like myself, because I've done a lot of peer-to-peer work and counseling with patients, which is one of the reasons why 5.2 really scares me. I feel like they're trying to very casually sweep the AC, the medical access under the rug. And for that reason, I'm very grateful for advocates such as yourselves, because had it not been for you in the first place, I myself as a patient would not have found cannabis or gotten on board myself about 10 years ago. So if anything, I'm probably the big mouth that keeps saying, learn, and learn more. And the more that I learn, the more I learn there is to learn. If I could say anything to the statements, it's that there is a definite line between a medical user and a recreational user, and that the medical user is looking to treat a symptom or an issue or a challenge that is affecting the quality of their life. Whereas a recreational user is saying, you know what, I want a vice and I just want to break out of this and I want the whole experience of cannabis. And hey, c'est la vie. If you can go and get a shot of vodka, why can't you go get a, blunt of, I don't know, mystery alien cookies or something, So there's a definite command and need and want and desire for the medical, for the recreational. But as you guys have pointed out, everybody has said, there's real serious worry and concern for these patients, especially the children or the elderly. Could you imagine? I can't imagine my family going in and asking for something from my grandfather. to a bud tender. He's 97, just turned 98, when he's got this issue with skin cancer. I could just see one of the bud tenders. They'd be in panic mode. Here, let me tell you what you should be having for that anxiety. So yeah, there's a definite need, and it's very scary that the medical could get swept away. And thankfully, everybody's here going, oh, no, 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 because we've all got something to say about it. So thank you for having me as one of those persons who obviously has a lot to say.
Yeah, you've said it yourself. I get chatty. Exactly. So obviously you're going to say that you're going to agree the medical program is necessary, and the stores just won't suffice.
No, and it certainly does need to be revamped. I mean, the whole medical thing needs to be worked at. All the reasons why. I mean, why is a really fracturing question, which just throws me off the deep end, and I can't be there. So I don't go with the whys. I just go straight to the pragmatic. Right now, where cannabis stands, the medical program stands, we need our own dispensaries. We need our own our own experts in the medical arena that's going to work with patients and clients. And 10 years from now, if we had those brick and mortar places set up, 10 years from now, this wouldn't even be an issue. It wouldn't even be a consideration. It would be a matter of fact. But we've got to get there, and we've got to, for those patients, for those kids, for those elderly, for the fact that, 20 years from now, I'm going to be one of them. You guys are going to be one of them. And I want to make sure that cannabis is available to me over the morphine, or God knows what else they're going to try and pump into my system. The problem.
Next question I'm going to ask Ted this question directly, and I'm sure anybody else can follow up afterwards. Ted, is there any past court cases that could stop the government from doing this by eliminating the program? Like, would the affordability part be something that could stop this?
Okay, it's really choppy and hard to understand that.
Okay.
If I paraphrase, can you hear me out? Am I clear to you?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
Yeah, like I'm wondering,
if I understand, you're asking me about the Allard decision.
Allard, Parker, any of them.
Okay, sorry, I couldn't hear that.
Yeah, like could the Allard case, the Parker case, the case that Ross is talking about, the Clay case, any of them throughout the years, is there a court case that could just put the brakes right on this whole elimination thought?
This is just too choppy. I can't understand.
Okay, all right. Okay, well, I'll pass that. I'll pass that question on to anybody else who wants to answer that. Ross or Shawna,
I'm just going to skip out, folks, because I can't.
Okay, thanks, Ted. Thank you.
Thanks, Ted.
Stop.
Okay. Internet issues. All right, Matt, Shawna, Tim, Ross.
Sorry, what was the question?
Is there any past court cases, whether it's the Parker, the Clay case, newer cases like Owens or the Allard case? You're talking heavily about the one that you've been involved in that you believe could put a stop to this. Yeah.
It makes you wonder, is Health Canada and the Canadian government ever going to stop violating sick people's rights? Really?
Right.
What is the issue here? We need to get over this shit. There's a lot of people out there who don't want to be on opiates, who don't want to be on other pharmaceutical drugs that have many, many side effects and can make you even sicker. When cannabis is a natural medicine that can cure almost anything or treat almost anything, including children. Why is there this big bugaboo that somehow it's evil? I go into my local Foodland grocery store and walk out with a bottle of Jose Cuervo. Okay, I can walk into my corner store and walk out with a pack of Du Maurier. Right? How many people die from tobacco? What kind of problems are there in society from alcohol, drunk driving, spousal abuse, God knows what, right? Like in the food land, right? And what do we have for access to cannabis? Medical cannabis, in particular.
You can't walk up to a store. You can't walk up to
you can go
a
into
legal
Shoppers
medical
Drug Mart.
store.
You can go to Shoppers Drug Mart and say, I want to buy some of this cannabis. And then they'll happily order it from the LP for you and have it delivered back to their pharmacy, where you can go back a few days later to pick it up. What the fuck? You know, like,
no, that's not good.
Here we are in 2022 going into 2023, and sick people are still fighting for their right to treat themselves with what they feel is right for them. What's wrong with our government, and what's wrong with Health Canada? What's wrong with the society that would do that to the ill, right? Mm-hmm. So this has got to change. It's going to change. I don't think that anybody can operate with a good conscience and support the elimination of a medical program that benefits so many.
No.
What kind of evil is that? You know, I'm sorry, but this is gonna stop. I'm not gonna say it's gotta stop. It's gonna stop. You know, like, I mean, we've been victims, okay, and sometimes we talk like victims. Now we have to talk like owners of our own rights, okay? We don't have to ask for anything anymore, okay? We've won all that right. Now we do. Mm-hmm. And we do whether they have it written or not. And if they prosecute us, we go back to the Charter of Rights and Freedoms again, right? So this is all just a big circle that needs to just be flattened out into a plane of existence where we can all agree that medical cannabis is a right that every human being on this planet deserves to have, and we're not going to let it go without a fight. And so therefore, it's not going to go. I think they know that. I think they know that they can't do it.
I think too, one of the challenges for having it in order for, and I'm not sure exactly how it all works or what it's called, but any pharmaceutical that comes out has to have like a DIN number or a DNS or an NID or whatever the hell that number is, like that drug. Well, cannabis is a plant. And as we all know, I mean, if I grow Granddaddy Purple on the West Coast, it's going to be different than the Granddaddy Purple on the East Coast. Just by weather temperatures or whether I have it indoors, what I'm going to get. So they can't narrow it down. They can't standardize it, which means they can't give it this stupid little number. So if they fluff it off into a naturopathic health food store environment kind of thing, then they don't have to deal with it anymore. Then they don't have to deal with the insurances because it's no longer considered a medicine. Then they don't have to. I mean, there's just so many things that the government very happily would get to go, do away with that is all on the backs of patients. And patients definitely need to stand up and fight for their rights right now in a very big way to keep this on the table and to get it amended, to get it so that it actually works for us.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, we're being taxed on our medicine. We're being taxed on our medicine.
Right.
Like, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Tim, as I mentioned earlier, I wanted to touch a bit onto the Indigenous community when it comes to the medical end here and communicating with the Health Canada. Kelly and I, we did a report earlier this morning on the Reefer Reporters on the exclusion of the Indigenous community involved in the Cannabis Act.
Yeah.
And how they don't feel that they've been involved at all. So did you want to speak to that?
I sure do. Just mind-boggling. So right from the outset, I was on the trail, literally following politicians around Canada, asking them why no consultation with First Nation. Actually, when they were developing the regulations for this program, we were right there. Debating the federal government then. This is 20 2016, 2017, we would show up to these conferences, a group of us from various First Nations, the Medical Indigenous Cannabis Association. I had 6 of us had created that. And so, we sat with the Cannabis Secretariat and Health Minister and all the other politicians. But right from the outset of this program, they didn't even acknowledge us. We were sitting front and center, right in front of the podium, and they would not acknowledge us. So right from the outset, this program has not been about inclusion, right? And really, I'm okay with that because that gave us the ability to create our own laws, right? So whether that was done by design or by mistake, I'm not sure which, but it's working to our benefit. Now the Indigenous councils across the world see the benefits of natural medicines, all of our natural medicines. Cannabis is just one of thousands. So it's just part of our pharmacopoeia here through all the reserves that I work with. And, I'm supplying probably 75 different, First Nations across Ontario and Canada. And so,
wow.
Yeah, so the councils are now grabbing hold of this, and they see what it is. It's healing their people, right? So we have a whole different perspective on plants and medicine. And I think that's why we were left out of the consultation, is because we see plants as part of us, and we always have. And so the government, from the outset of this program, it's always been about money. It's never been about patients. It's never been about human rights, body autonomy. It's never been about anything like that. It's always been about money, speculation, and money. And it was driven, into a state now where someone mentioned earlier 900 LPs. And I can tell you right now, probably 90% of those LPs are in the red. So
we're hearing about it all the time.
They built it top heavy. Al, you and I have had some heated discussions on this. They pay themselves enormous fees every year, right? So $10 million a year for a CEO is friggin' ridiculous, especially when you're trying to serve the needs of patients. It's a slap in the face to the patients. Not only the patients, but the thousands of Canadians across the country who basically got their living usurped to the LP. So those people should have been, compensated, if you will. I don't see this as a black market. I never have. It's a medicine. It belongs to us all. So that is, I've been growing probably 47 years now. And I've always thought about it like that. The first time I was introduced to a plant, that was nature to me. And so I never looked at it as a drug. And that's so bring it on.
Bring it on. Okay. Matt, why do you think that the government is collecting this information? Like, obviously this is information and data because people are going to supply the government their proof of why they feel on this question so passionately. So do you think that down the road that they'll use this against us?
Always. Being coming from where we have as proud cannabis users, I'm skeptical of anything they do. They lift a finger, and I think there's an ill intent into it, and there's good reason to it. There is the questions, as we alluded to earlier on, they're not questions that have anything to do with the medical population improving. It is kind of picking at holes in it. It's trying to create sand out of the foundation that we stand on, which I don't get it, because we've driven pillars into the ground. There's just no like we've stated here, that can't put all this back. We've worked too hard.
What would happen to research if they did away with the medical program?
I see ill intent.
Yeah. What was that, Irene?
sorry, like medical research right now. I mean, would all of that be halted?
I cut out here a little.
With that,
Yeah, well, they're supposed to do some research, but they're not doing very much of it. I can
no,
tell you
but
that
what
much.
I'm saying is, if they did away with the medical program, would they also do away with all the medical research?
I think it's already halted in many ways.
Right.
It's certainly halted in the Canadian market, right? We see that research is really moving forward very quickly, especially medically elsewhere in the world. But our Canadian government doesn't even want to know what's going on elsewhere in the world. They focus on, I mean, look at Health Canada's, there's the portion of their site that's devoted for medical practitioners to learn, or, patients to go and get some information. Studies that they actually refer to are so outdated. It's ridiculous. They're like 20 years old, 15 years old. There's so much new research that is out there. And the other thing that Health Canada does is they self-reference, right?
Yes.
They put out, they say, well, go look at this site that says that, cannabis is harmful to the young brain. And that site is government funded. And they go, well, Health Canada said so it must be true. And it's this, even in what they just recently published, there's this self-referencing, well, they said, so it must be true. And this is the agenda that we're going to move forward with.
Right.
I think, what lies at the bottom of all of this is profitability.
Absolutely.
And not having to be liable for making a shit ton of money off of the people that need to have access to this, right? Wipe our hands of liability and make more profits. It's unfortunate, but I think that we can see that in every other aspect of, society right now.
Yeah.
That's a hard statement.
Be happy because there's Soma on every corner.
Yeah. This is a general question for all of you, and you can speak as just don't speak over top of each other. When it comes to these surveys and input that they ask from Canadians on, the medical program or cannabis, and I've seen them travel around early on where they went to the dispensaries like Ted's and others, BCC, and asked them how they dealt with things. Do these surveys really do much good in the end? Like, they take this input, but do we change their minds much? Like, if they've already got maybe something focused, is it just a procedure that they're just following and going through because they're required to, or do they work?
I'll take that if you want. So Health Canada is, these consultations are actually going on for the next 18 months. Okay. The questionnaire that's online that ends November 22nd, and I encourage everybody to go there and give your input. When that's over, then the in-person sessions start. There's a board of 5 people who've been selected. They tell me based on their experience with cannabis. I told them that they needed to have boots on the ground experience, somebody who knows, who's down there in the trenches. I deal in my business every day with black market, with First Nations, with medical growers. We run a clinic. We see it all. We have micro producers and licensed producers. So I get to see it all. And I said, hey, you want my input? I'll be on your board. They said they have people. Thank you. We have people who know stuff. So I'm going to hold them to task. I'm going to make sure that this board has the depth of knowledge that they say they do. I encourage everybody to go to the legislative review email and send a request to be included in an in-person session. I think that everybody who is here tonight is qualified to attend one of these in-person sessions. They're going to be held across the country. There's going to be one probably in Halifax, Montreal, Toronto, probably somewhere in the prairies of Winnipeg or Calgary, and definitely in British Columbia. So it's people like us that need to find a place for these in-person sessions. I did already attend one on the Cannabis Act because of my advocacy in the past. I got invited to one in Ottawa when they were legalizing, and I got to meet the panel, the Health Canada panel, and talk to them directly. There's no better way to get your message across than to sit in a small group, face to face with the Health Canada people who are making the decisions and telling them what you think. And we need to do that. So all of you, there is an email, and if you just Google Legislative Review, Health Canada, Cannabis, the email link will come up. You just click on that, type out your email. It might take them 3 weeks to get back to you. That's roughly about how long it takes them to get back to me. But I think they take the more complicated emails, they take a little longer to consider them, perhaps have group meetings to come up with an answer, right? And it's all very well formulated. Anyway, it's a fun game. But we should all be partaking, and we should all be in their face, okay? There's no better way to tell them everything that we're saying right now, right to their face, and look them in the eye while you do it. So do that. Go there, send them an email, tell them who you are, tell them what you believe in, and tell them that you want to be part of the process, and you understand there's going to be in-person sessions across the country. I want to be invited. Okay, you will go on to a list.
Thank you.
Thank you.
There's only so many people that they can invite, so the sooner you do that, the more likely that you will be chosen to attend one of these sessions. Okay, so I really encourage everybody to do that. Whether you're First Nations, you're medical, you're recreational, whatever you are, there's no better way to look another human in the eye and tell them what you think.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Shawna.
I think one of the biggest challenges is that, you know, we have these reviews and these surveys, and it's wonderful that we have an opportunity to have our voices heard. But excuse me, who the fuck knows that any of this exists? If you don't go on to Health Canada's site regularly to know what they're surveying about, who knows in the public eye? I talk to my patients every day, and I encourage them, go look at this, go take part in this, but it's not well advertised, just like our medical system isn't well advertised. Who knows that it exists? I feel like our government is, you know, happy to make themselves look like they are being transparent and that they are looking for our opinions. But what public, you know, advertising campaigns have been made? Have you heard about the Cannabis Act review on the radio? Have you heard about it in the news? I haven't.
You won't hear.
I'm in the cannabis community, you know, I do this for a living. So the general population doesn't know that this is going on. And that's one of the biggest issues. Never mind getting our voices heard, but getting everybody's voices heard. Not just about those of us who sit around this table who take the time and make the effort to know what's going on and to be in the know. There are so many people out there that are not in the know. How do we get our government to better represent us by making sure that these types of things, that there are actually campaigns, you know, public advertising campaigns out there? That's one of my biggest issues.
Yeah. Matt,
so
or Irene, you want to speak on that?
I want to speak for sure. I think that, echoing everybody, I think the only thing that these survey questions have accomplished is making the entire medical community nervous beyond belief and outraged and frustrated. And it just goes to show how inadept these people who are running the show is. It's so blatant that it's not about us, and it is about, like Shawna said, just kind of covering their ass. And it's something that I know the medical community, I know how deeply you know, the heart rolls in the medical tribe that we all embody so much, that this fight will never ever be done. But it's just so ironic, the you know, what we were speaking about tonight, about how the kids are going to be most affected by this medical program, or maybe not even most, but among those most affected, and that the Cannabis Act was written so tightly regulated to protect the kids. And it just goes to show the hypocrisy that can kind of go on within this framework, that you get to pulling your hair out and go, this is absolutely outrageous. And not to mention the fact that they've pushed this recreational model on us and said, this is the best thing. This is, this is how it's going to go, and have lost I think it's like $60 billion, $40 billion, whatever. I'm no, business expert, but I don't think you have to be to know that we are in a failing market completely. And not only are they looking at that and going, everything's all right, everything's fine, while they're 12 feet below water, but they're taking out the model that can provide we all know our healthcare system is at the brink of existence, and we can't sustain it. It's unsustainable.
Right.
And have provided this absolutely revolutionary new idea to help people take their power back and be able to heal themselves in some way, shape, or form, impacting our community, impacting our GDP, impacting everything positively. If you can have that, the sight to see a little bit farther down the line, instead of your bottom line, instead of your next, your next election cycle. And it's very apparent that, as Ross said, we need to get these in-person meetings scheduled as soon as possible and look these people dead in the eye and go, this cannot go on. You will not get away with this, even if it's something that is already in motion. Just know it's not going to fly. And as the medical community knows, it's one step at a time, but it's a frustrating step to take for sure.
Thank you.
It is.
Thank you.
Tim, Irene, you want to comment on that before we go to the comment section?
We gotta get to these questions. Yeah.
Honestly, I think both Shawna and Matt and Ross have spoken pretty much most of my thoughts. Information is power, and it can be used against us, and it can be used for us. It's a choice on how we are going to wield it. And I think these in person, it's something that I think we have to do it just as a commitment to ourselves as patients, not just our communities of patients and people, but to ourselves as well. And it can't be a for-profit. We all have to feed ourselves, but we have to look after each other as well.
And Tim, I believe you've dealt with some Health Canada issues in the past, met with them.
Yes. Oh, yes. So, so the survey, I'm not much of a survey guy. I think it's a bunch of bullshit, really. They already have an agenda. Their agenda is clear.
Right.
That's right.
So, I say it's going to take, some serious boots on the ground, right? Like us, back to court we go. And that's probably where this is going to end. So we all need to get together and create some sort of a fund and start thinking about the future of medical cannabis in a real way. I think that we can make some positive changes here, but it's not going to be with the government. It's going to have to be through the courts again, unfortunately.
Unfortunately.
They keep violating our rights. So we haven't even discussed really why this is really all started was in Vancouver, right? So drug addicts, drug addictions. I'm one of those guys, right? So, 10 years of addiction to heroin and Oxycontin, and got myself clean using this oil. And so I've been clean for 25 years. But
congratulations.
Yes,
all right.
What about all the people that are out there right now, and they are adding up like it's crazy. My small city, which is around 50,000, the homeless there has to be in close to 1,000. Like they're everywhere you look, in the woods, right? In the parks. And the cities are inundated. Vancouver, Toronto, any city, Montreal. And it's the same thing right around the world, right? So we have a lot of hurt and sick people. And we're not addressing that. There's no addiction centers being talked about here across Canada, right? Hospitals, as we all know, are on life support themselves. And so we go to what everybody's been saying. It makes no sense to me. This is a free plant, right? A gift from the creator, and its purpose is to heal.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
That's, you know,
Yeah.
it's easy to see, but they don't come and ask people like us. You know?
No.
Like,
That's
you know, there should be someone from that government sitting here talking to us right now, discussing this.
Yes.
Like, it's an embarrassment, really. They've turned it into a political hot potato, right? Because it works for the base, and that's what you have here. And patients, as usual, are left to deal with it as best they can, and that's the whole unfortunate thing here.
All right, we'll go to the comments. I see that there was a few there. Just so you know, Kelly, a little technical talk here in the air. I have extended the broadcast, so if we go beyond 9 o'clock, no problem. Things will be good. Okay, just so you know, as far as what I've got set up. All right.
Okay.
You know, I'm also fearful for the stigmatism that will be reinitiated. There would be a lot of patients, I think, especially boomers that, you know, to date have been against it, but they've heard so much positive from other patients. Now, all of a sudden, they've got to walk in. They've got to ask a bud tender for information about what can I use for my knee, what kind of products are going to be available. Like, I see so much negative coming from this government move. And I see all the, you know, playing the devil's advocate, jumping to the other side of the equation. It's like, fuck, it really is in the best interest of the government to do away with the medical program. I mean, if they do, they benefit, not just economically, but in so many other ways by appeasing the pharmaceutical industry, by appeasing the CMA, the Doctors Association, I mean, by keeping cannabis as a medical prescription without the proper NDIA or whatever that is, that drug information number that they need, it makes it unclarified, I think is the term that I'm looking. It makes it unclarified for them. And there's too many things left up to the courts, and the government doesn't want that. Government wants control, and
whole program is enforced by the courts.
On every single corner, they're saying, well, what do you really need a medical system for? And there's enough know-it-alls out there that'll probably give you the information you need so you can go to the corner store. I mean, we gave you everything you wanted. Now, you know, I look at it from the other side of the equation to see how would they argue with us, and that's their first argument, I think. Because they can't identify it specifically, they can't narrow it down because it's a plant. It's impossible. It goes against the regulations of doctors to prescribe it as a medicine, which means insurance companies don't have to pay for it. WSIB, look at all the insurance claims in WSIB and everybody that's fighting, because you know what? They want cannabis over the opiates. They don't want the opiate addictions. I mean, most of us that are out here advocating have had, you know, pharmaceutical addictions because of pain, injury, illness. And we're saying it doesn't have to be that way. There's this beautiful natural substance. No, you can't put your finger on it, because call it God's bud, call it a gift from the universe, call it whatever you want. It works. And it works for damn good reason. Thanks to research, we know that. If they eliminate it from medical, they also save, I mean, billions of dollars in medical research. Like, I mean, it all comes down to that almighty dollar.
The buck. All right, let's get to the comments.
Absolutely. And we'll start with our most recent one, I believe, was coming up during Irene's most recent conversation here from Tamara Wilton, who said totally agrees with that. So we'll just read some comments and some questions that happened over the last, and keep it to as close to 9 o'clock as possible. Now, we had Glenn who was coming in, and he was saying, even when the courts are on our side and rule in our favor, the government just ignores the ruling. things. Does anybody want to
Well,
take
or they just make enough change, just a minor change, so that the whole process is start all over again, right? Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Perfect.
And as Owen pointed out, even on his own case, they still haven't met the requirements because of that 10 milligram limit.
Right.
Yeah. And here's another reason. Somebody asked earlier in the first part about the need for a large grow operation. I have one patient, or had one patient, who is now working with Dr. Elizabeth, thankfully, and doing wonderfully, but should have been dead. Their skin was peeling. They were having a lot of issues, medically speaking. Raw cannabis was wonderful. So she actually consumes like 2 cups of raw cannabis. You need to grow a lot of weed to have that much raw cannabis available to you on a regular basis.
Yeah.
She grows a lot of its hemp. She really doesn't care what she gets as far as bud goes, because really in that respect, she only needs X amount, which would be regularly available by a normal prescription. But on the other side of the equation, having the raw cannabis available to her has been instrumental in not only changing the quality of her life, but giving her a length of life.
Excellent. Excellent. Now, speaking of prescriptions, Daniel Smith came in and said even benefit companies should be covering cannabis prescriptions if they cover opiates.
Right.
Anyone want to take that?
Yes. I completely agree. If they're going to cover opiates, they should be covering something safer, and that's the cannabis. I'm a perfect example. I've had my Crohn's disease for 19 years. I've had 2 prescriptions for opiates while I've been hospitalized. Other than that, it's just cannabis. I have saved governments thousands of dollars, tens of thousands, who knows, hundreds of thousands of dollars, just because I use cannabis instead of the opiate drugs. And everybody should have that option.
But Al, can I challenge you in saying that you may be saving the government on one end, but you're not making them more money on the other end. And, you know, one of the realities of the situation is that our pharmaceutical industry basically runs our government, right?
Yes.
And you know, I know that that's maybe a taboo thing to say, but it's the reality of things. And you know, the almighty dollar is what pushes us forward. Look at what we've just lived over the last couple of years, government coming together with healthcare and making our health decisions for us. We're on a spiral running out of control. You know, keeping us sick is more profitable than
much more profitable.
Help ourselves get well. And you know, that's
There's no money in cures.
The reality of where we're at right now.
That's really what you said there, Shawna. That's really the basis of the whole plant world, right? So, you know, when we were young, you know, we grew our own vegetables, right? So we got our medicine right in our yard, right? And so along come Western science and Monsanto in 1973 and literally changed the whole world, how we operate, right? And so we didn't turn over the ground to plant our seeds. You know, that was a Western way, right? So, that was, we need to get back to our medicines, and that is fruits and vegetables and salads. And really, that's what we need to be prescribing.
But that's empowering people, right? Empower the people with knowledge so that they can eat better. Like, what are we doing right now? Go to your grocery store. What are your
right? You know, and there is the problem, right? There is the problem,
right? It's about control and control of profits and control of, you know, where those profits are going and who's in control of them. You know, allowing people to have access. I think our whole recreational system is like, you know, a mirror, like, you know, oh, you've got, like, it's like the veiled mirror, the smoke and mirrors, or whatever you want to call it. Oh, you've got access. You don't need anything anymore. You can access what you need and shut us up and stop us from empowering ourselves with knowledge and the ability to heal ourselves, because that's not a profitable model.
No, it's not.
Educated people make informed decisions, and they really don't like that.
That's right.
Especially when you know what's coming, and we look back at something like the opioid addiction, just know that we're dealing with people on both sides that just threw up their hands and not only allowed that, but facilitated that in one way, shape, or form. And that's something that we know, as it was put, that it's much more profitable to keep us sick, but it is much more positive for humanity not to be that way. And I think that's fundamentally what we know, but have moved so far away in the way that we're indoctrinated into the societies that we are, that, as you say, are kind of set up by the pharmaceutical companies. That was a huge revelation for me, and especially I'm glad to say that I see a recent trend of people really taking back their own health in many ways, whether it's looking to shop organic, whether, like Tim said, people are really looking at growing their own vegetables in the backyard, whether it's to save a buck or to have that therapeutic value of it. Because that's another thing I love to tell people about cannabis is, the only thing addictive about it is growing it, and the therapeutic value that comes from that is it's communal. It brings us back to being empowered. It brings us back to being neighbors. It brings us back to knowing what's going in our bodies and what's going on around us. And they really don't like that. But as we all have gotten together and saying, we don't care. We just don't. And what they want is absolutely not in our interest at all. And I think we're throwing almost the entire thing out because we know we're being put in a maze. And I'm really happy to be along with so many people who have just taken the chainsaw out and cut through and just going, you know what? No, we're making our own path. So yeah, it's a tough road, but proud to be on it.
Irene, I see you're looking to say something there.
Yeah, I was just going to say, one of the ways to control a people is through their food and medicine, and not being able to identify the plant. They don't have to make it a drug that is prescribed. And I hate using the word drug for cannabis because it's not. It's natural food and medicine. And if history has taught us anything, it's taught us that we will be scorned for preaching the benefits of it that can be gleaned from it. That being said, if anything, we go forward and you just keep teaching, you just keep educating, you keep informing people. And getting in their faces, like you say, so, standing up in those, in the representing in those legislative assemblies and saying, this is a medicine, this is a food, this is much more than just a drug. And no, you can't label it, but it needs to be made available. And therefore we need a very definitive medical program to protect the rights of our patients, to protect the rights of patients, to protect the Charter of our rights as Canadians. We don't read it anymore. Unfortunately, we're becoming a very lazy society, and we are the preachers. Every single one of us are the pot preachers that have to get out there and say, you do need to be using, have you considered cannabis? Try that as a topical, get that as an enema, eat that raw, get high. Holy shit, buddy, you need to chill, have a puff. I said that to somebody once when they were having a hissy fit. Thank God I had a joint on me.
Any more comments there, Rev Kelly?
Oh, yes. I actually have a question from the Butter Baron. He says, does Health Canada recognize a difference between medicinal and recreational access? Do they see dispensaries as access to medicinal cannabis?
That's what they're pushing for, right? Is they're saying, let's just make a dispensary.
Go ahead, Shawna.
I think more importantly than do they see dispensaries as access to medicinal cannabis is that's what they're hoping that we see. And that's what our general population sees, is we saw recreational legalization. The majority of the population doesn't know that the medical system even exists, especially medical practitioners. And so, what are we seeing is that medical practitioners are sending their patients to the recreational outlets. And so that's where you have access. And again, we're coming back to this access. Didn't we figure this out in 2001? Aren't we past it? Haven't we grown? It's not about access anymore. It's about quality of access that we have to gain. So yes, unfortunately, the majority of our public, especially our medical practitioners, I just dealt with a patient yesterday, same thing. My doctor said it was okay for me to use CBD, so he sent me to the local rec store, and I just don't know what to ask for. Like, what? Your doctor is so negligent. If your doctor has encouraged you to consume, then your doctor should be writing you a prescription, and your doctor should be guiding you through the entire process. And if they can't do that, then hire a medical cannabis educator, because guess what? We exist,
Very
It's a lack of
Very
good.
education, and it's a lack of willingness to see where we're falling short.
Excellent. Perfect.
I think on the Butter Baron's first part of his question had to do with does the government recognize the recreational or medical, the difference between them? I'm going to say no, because they don't even recognize the medical benefits of cannabis.
That's right.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
Okay,
let's
next.
maybe just end. I just have a few comments we'll end with. Glenn says, growing your own medicine does not make the government any money. You agree?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Daniel
That's
Smith
right.
says that he loves the First Nation aspect. I think so, so
Yeah.
do we, Daniel.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes.
And Tamara says, sick and drinking alcohol and taking pharmaceuticals. That's right. That would make you sick, Tamara.
Yeah.
And then
Likewise.
Richie says, Jack Kungal is the answer and the example to present to the government why medical is important. Love overall. There we
Yeah.
go.
This is an example.
Aaron. Wonderful.
No. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, we got a few minutes left. We just want to wrap up with some general comments. All right. I'll let. Well, we're passing the Duchy to the left, and left.
I don't know what is what.
And that's Irene. Closing comments. Anything you want to say? We'll just go around the table.
Oh, so that's going to me?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, that's you. Yeah.
Info is power. Yeah, info is power. Thank you for having me here tonight, and thank you to everybody who's out there fighting. And if I can aid and support in some way, double our voices, make us louder, I'm there. Let me know how I can aid and support, and I'll keep everybody else in mind. And that's what it is. Info is power. Collaboration over everything else.
Thank you.
Many voices.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Matt?
Just want to thank everyone here, both on the panel and listening, for your shared voices in this amazing community. I know we're all preaching to the choir here, talking about such important and amazing topics and things that really need to be addressed. And I urge everyone out there to just keep doing your best to voice his opinions. It's so important to really get together and share these amazing stories and like-minded perspectives of this incredible plant and the people that we represent. So just want to thank everybody for taking the time, and really appreciate and send out a thank you to all the shoulders that we stand on, both in the medical community and in the cannabis community overall. We've had some amazingly brave people get us this far, and I really want to tip the hat to each one of them, and to all the future advocates as well. So thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Pretty much the same, yeah. Hats off to all of the people who got us to where we are. A lot of them now gone, but never forgotten. I'd like to shout out to Dr. Hornby.
Correct.
But so on all the trailblazers that made it possible for all of us to do what we do, and all of the people that just have recently, in the last 2, 3, 4, 5 years, has been overwhelming to our community. And so hats off to future young folks who take up the cause of medical cannabis. Our hats are off to you, and and drop us a line if you need help getting started.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Shawna?
Yes, I
Thank
can
you. Thank you,
echo
Tim.
everything that everyone has said so far. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. I really hope that you are going to I hope you've recorded this and that you're going to send this off to Health Canada, to help get our voices out there.
Yes.
Educannation ran a similar event last week, and we will be sending our response to Health Canada. We will be publishing it as well. So, when it gets out there, of course, we don't have very much time to do these things, but we're going to put it out there as soon as we can. Please feel free to sign your names to it. Make sure that you get your voices heard. There are 2 surveys on Health Canada, one in regards to the Cannabis Act in general, and one in regards to its effect on the Indigenous communities. Make sure that you fill in those surveys and get your voices heard. That's number 1, most important. And I really look forward to continuing to work with you all. What an amazing group of people. Thank you. Thank you for continuing to fight the fight.
Thank you, Shawna.
Thank you, Shawna. Ross?
Yeah, I'd like to echo Shawna's words and say get out there and tell them what you think. It's available right now. It only goes to November 22nd, and then the online consultations are closed. So please go there, answer all their questions. You're going to say, wow, what a bunch of inane questions that have such obvious answers, but tell them in no uncertain terms what you expect, not what you want, what you expect. And if we all do this, especially us, okay, because we are all the ones who represent the thousands and thousands of other people whose voices aren't heard. We really need to get directly to the source of this regulatory structure to ensure that our rights are defended and we are not taken advantage of, and we're not going to be pushed around. And we have to let them know that, but we have to do it in a very professional way that is not insulting, that you have to make yourself sound very credible, and everybody has done that here tonight in spades. So just reflect that to them in person, send them that email, fill out that consultation document, and request that in-person access. I think we really can make a difference, and I think that we are not going to lose our medical program. We won't let that happen.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Rev Kelly.
Oh, my goodness. My goodness. All the blessings to all of you tonight. And everybody that stayed and watched over the past couple of hours. There's been so many views and so many comments, and you're also passionate about it, and you should be absolutely passionate about it and fired up and collectively coming together for all of the issues that we've talked about tonight, and have your say and use your voice. If not for you, if not for the life right now, for the children. We've brought it up so many times tonight. The children, the little ones right now that are coming, and then they don't need the pills. They don't need that at all. So let's hope by the time that they get to a point where they do, that we have this kind of medicine for them, and it's never ever taken away, because they can't go inside of dispensaries. They can't go inside the retail shops. So they need the medical program. So even if we just think about the little ones right now, I send you my blessings and gratitude for that. Thank you.
And as we close off, I'd like to say thanks to everybody who participated tonight, everybody that's here right now, as well as to Owen and Ted Smith and Debbie Stultz-Giffin, who had to drop out due to internet connection issues. We did have some issues throughout the night, but I think we got the word across, obviously, for what we're accomplishing tonight, and that's hearing from the patients and from people who are involved in all of this. Over the years, things have really changed. When I first got involved in all this, we were just meeting at there was just a few patients talking at trade shows and handing out leaflets and little pieces of paper, and people were just looking at us and thought we were crazy. Here we are 15 years later, and people aren't thinking we're so crazy anymore. People are supporting, cannabis patients in the cannabis program, and it's something that's that has to be saved. It's where patients have worked so hard, and I don't think we're about to just let it go out with the bathwater. So thank you all for being your voices and having your voices heard. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, everyone. Good night.
Thank you, everyone.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
The views expressed by the individuals during this broadcast are their own opinions, and they may not be the same as those of their group or other organizations they may be involved with.
BMA Hydroponics has everything you need to succeed. Visit our hydroponics superstore at 404 Maitland Drive in Belleville, and we'll show you how to grow your own quality cannabis for pennies per gram. We're open Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Saturdays from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. and Thursdays and Fridays from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. Call 613-967-9888. BMA Hydroponics. It's worth the drive.
The only way to go. When you have a pain that's reached its peak, Legacy for 20, it's so unique. If organic cannabis is what you seek, here's your trusted partner 7 days a week. Suppository salves, vapes and drops, topicals, edibles, infused pop. Just when life seems like it ain't easy, at Legacy 420, enjoy a pop freezy. Lab tested products, make them the GOAT. Legacy 420 out on your road. Legacy 420 in Tyendinaga Mohawk territory. Indigenous organic cannabis at its finest.
Did you know that the Pace Radio Network isn't just a radio network? That's right, because most, but not all of our programming is now done via video and is then podcasted at paceradio.net. So if you want to watch our programming, you'll find us on the Pace Radio Network's Facebook page, plus the show's own page, and you'll find us live on the network's YouTube channel. And don't forget, you can find it all, video and audio, at paceradio.net.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more, we've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
You're listening to the Pace Radio.